My name is Jacob, and this happened during the fall of 2023, in the mountains of western Montana. Even now, almost 3 years later, I still avoid forests after sunset. Before this happened, I was obsessed with hiking. Every weekend, no matter the weather, I'd pick a trail and disappear into the wilderness for hours. Most people hated being alone in the woods. I loved it. The silence felt peaceful. Unfortunately, that silence is exactly what nearly got me killed. It started in late October. The leaves had already turned orange and red, and temperatures were dropping quickly. One Saturday afternoon, I decided to hike a trail leading to an abandoned fire tower deep in the mountains. The tower had been closed for years. Most locals avoided it because the climb was long and isolated. That was exactly why I chose it. I arrived around 2 p.m. The parking lot was empty, not a single vehicle. Perfect. I grabbed my backpack, locked my truck, and headed up the trail. The hike was beautiful. Sunlight filtered through the trees. A cool breeze moved through the forest. Everything felt normal. About an hour into the hike, I noticed something strange. A backpack. It was lying beside the trail. At first I assumed someone accidentally dropped it, but when I got closer, I realized it looked deliberately placed. Standing upright against a tree, the zipper was open. I called out, "Hello." No answer. The forest remained silent. Curious, I looked inside. Food, water, extra clothes, a flashlight, everything a hiker would need. Yet nobody was around. A bad feeling settled in my stomach. I decided not to touch anything and continued toward the tower. Around 4 p.m., I finally reached the summit. The fire tower stood above the tree line. Old, rusty, abandoned. The stairs creaked beneath my boots as I climbed. The view from the top was incredible. Miles of forest stretched in every direction. No roads, no houses, nothing, just wilderness. I spent about 20 minutes taking photos. Then I noticed movement far below. Someone was standing near the base of the tower. A man, tall, wearing a dark coat. He wasn't climbing, wasn't hiking, just standing there, looking up at me. The distance made it impossible to see his face. I waved. No response. He remained completely still. After several uncomfortable minutes, I decided it was time to leave. As I descended the stairs, I kept watching him. The moment I reached the ground, the man walked into the trees, disappearing instantly. I never heard footsteps, never heard branches breaking. He simply vanished. I felt uneasy, but I still had several hours before dark, so I started heading back toward the parking lot. About 30 minutes later, I realized something was wrong. The forest had become too quiet. No birds, no squirrels, nothing. Then I heard a whistle, a short whistle, somewhere behind me. I stopped. The whistle stopped too. I looked around. Nothing. The trail was empty. I continued walking. A few minutes later, another whistle. Closer this time. I turned quickly. Still nothing. My pulse quickened. I remembered the man near the tower. Was he following me? The thought made me walk faster. Then I noticed footprints. Fresh footprints. Large boot prints beside the trail, matching my direction. I hadn't seen them earlier. The tracks appeared to emerge directly from the woods, just like someone had been watching from the trees. My phone showed no signal. Of course, I cursed under my breath. The sun was beginning to set. Shadows stretched across the trail. I increased my pace again. Then I heard something that made my blood freeze. Laughter. Not normal laughter. A low, disturbing chuckle, coming from somewhere in the forest. I couldn't tell where. The sound echoed between the trees. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I forced myself to stay calm. Panicking in the wilderness usually leads to mistakes. A few minutes later I reached a small clearing. That's when I saw it. Another backpack, just like the first one, except this time there was something beside it. A hiking boot, covered in dried blood. I stopped dead. My heart hammered against my ribs. The boot looked torn, like something had ripped it off someone's foot. I didn't investigate further. I turned around and started jogging. The laughter returned. Closer, much closer. I could hear footsteps now. Heavy footsteps, moving through the woods parallel to the trail. Keeping pace with me, I broke into a run. The footsteps accelerated. So did the laughter. Branches snapped. Leaves crunched. Whoever was following me no longer cared about hiding. I ran harder. The trail twisted downhill. My lungs burned. Adrenaline flooded my body. Then I saw him, standing directly in the middle of the trail. The same man from the tower. his face hidden beneath a black hood, motionless, waiting. I stopped abruptly. The man didn't move, neither did I. For several seconds we simply stared at each other. Then he slowly raised one hand, and pointed toward the forest. I didn't wait to find out why. I bolted off the trail and sprinted downhill. Branches whipped my face, thorns tore my jacket. I didn't care. I just ran. Behind me I heard screaming, not angry screaming, excited screaming, like someone enjoying a game. I kept running. Eventually I crashed through the trees and found another trail. Then another miracle, a ranger station. Relief washed over me. I sprinted toward the building. A ranger stepped outside. One look at me and he knew something was wrong. I told him everything. The backpacks, the boot, the man, the chase. Police arrived shortly afterward. They searched the mountain until morning. What they discovered shocked everyone. The first backpack belonged to a missing hiker who disappeared 2 weeks earlier. The second belonged to another missing person. Both hikers had vanished on the same trail. Neither was ever found. As for the man, no trace, no footprints, no campsite, nothing. Police suspected a serial predator living in the mountains, but they never caught anyone. Months passed. I tried to move on. Then one night, around 1 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. The message contained only a photograph. A photograph of me, taken from outside my apartment window. My blood turned cold. I rushed to the window. Nobody was there. Then another message arrived. This one read, "You ran too fast." I immediately called police. Officers searched the area. Nothing. No witnesses. No suspects. The number couldn't be traced. Over the next month, more messages appeared. Always photographs. Me leaving work. Me grocery shopping. Me walking to my truck. Someone was watching me. The police increased patrols. Security cameras were installed around my apartment. For a while, the messages stopped. I hoped it was over. Then came Halloween night. The night I'll never forget. I was home alone watching TV. Around midnight, the power suddenly went out. The apartment fell silent. I grabbed a flashlight. At first I assumed it was a storm. Then I looked outside. Every neighboring apartment still had power. Only mine was dark. My stomach dropped. Someone had cut it. A knock echoed through the apartment. 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. Coming from the front door. I remained frozen. Another 3 knocks. Then silence. I slowly approached the peephole. Nothing. The hallway appeared empty. Then my flashlight illuminated something on the floor. A photograph. Slipped beneath the door. I picked it up. The image showed me sleeping in my bed. Taken from inside my bedroom. I nearly dropped it. Someone had been inside my apartment. The realization hit like a truck. Before I could react, I heard a noise behind me. A floorboard creaked. Inside the apartment. I turned. The bedroom door slowly opened. A dark figure stood inside, watching me. I screamed and ran for the fire exit. The figure lunged. I slammed through the stairwell door and raced downstairs. The police arrived within minutes. They searched the entire building. The intruder was gone, vanished, just like he vanished in the forest. I moved to another state shortly afterward. Changed jobs, changed phone numbers, changed everything. I've never received another message, but sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night, and for a split second, I think I hear that same laughter, echoing from somewhere beyond the darkness. And every time I hear a whistle in the distance, I remember the man standing beneath the fire tower, waiting. My name is Ryan, and this happened during the winter of 2022 in northern Michigan. I've always loved the woods. Growing up near endless forests meant I spent most of my childhood hiking, hunting, and camping. Unlike most people, I felt safer among trees than in crowded cities. That belief changed forever one January evening. The day started normally enough. A heavy snowstorm had passed through the night before, leaving nearly a foot of fresh snow covering everything. The sky was clear, the air sharp, and the forest looked like something from a postcard. My golden retriever, Scout, practically dragged me toward the trailhead. I parked my truck near an old ranger station and started down a trail I'd hiked dozens of times before. The forest was completely silent. No birds, no wind, just the crunching of snow beneath my boots. Scout ran ahead, happily jumping through drifts. For the first hour everything was perfect. Then I noticed something strange. Footprints. Fresh footprints. They weren't mine. They weren't Scout's. Someone had walked the trail recently. That wasn't unusual. What was unusual was where the tracks came from. The footprints emerged directly from the woods, not from another trail, not from a road, just from the dense forest itself, as if someone had been wandering through the trees before reaching the path. I stopped and examined them. Large boots, bigger than mine. The tracks headed in the same direction I was walking. I shrugged it off and continued. About 20 minutes later, Scout stopped. His ears stood upright, his tail lowered. He stared into the trees. I followed his gaze. Nothing, just snow-covered pines. Yet he refused to move. I called him twice. He finally obeyed but stayed unusually close to me. That should have been my warning. Around 4 p.m. I reached a frozen lake deep in the forest. The lake was beautiful, completely untouched, or so I thought. Near the shoreline stood a small wooden shack. I had never seen it before, and I'd visited this lake dozens of times. The structure looked old, very old, half buried in snow. The roof sagged under the weight. Broken boards covered the windows. I assumed it was some forgotten fishing shelter. Scout growled, a deep growl I'd never heard before. The hair on his back stood up. Then he barked, not playful barking, warning barking. I looked toward the shack. One of the boards covering the window moved slightly, just enough to reveal darkness behind it. My stomach tightened. Someone was inside. I immediately turned around and started walking back toward the trail. Scout stayed glued to my side. Neither of us looked back. The sun was beginning to set. Long shadows stretched across the snow. I checked over my shoulder several times. The shack disappeared behind the trees. Good. I increased my pace. 10 minutes later I heard it. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Footsteps. Behind me. I froze. The sound stopped. I turned around. Nothing. The trail was empty. I waited. Silence. Maybe I imagined it. I continued walking. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Again. This time definitely behind me. I spun around. Still nothing. My pulse accelerated. The trees stood motionless. Scout growled. Someone was there. I couldn't see them, but someone was there. I started walking faster. The footsteps matched my speed. I walked. They walked. I stopped. They stopped. At that point I knew. I was being followed. The nearest road was over 3 miles away. Darkness was approaching rapidly. My truck felt impossibly far away. I pulled out my phone. No signal. Of course, the forest always had dead zones. I cursed under my breath. Then I heard something that made my blood run cold. A whistle. A slow, deliberate whistle, coming from the woods. Not far away, maybe 30 yards. Scout barked furiously. The whistle stopped. Then another whistle answered from farther ahead. My heart nearly stopped. There were at least 2 people. One behind me, one somewhere ahead. I abandoned any attempt to stay calm. I grabbed Scout's collar and began jogging. The snow made running difficult. My boots sank deep with every step. The forest grew darker. Branches swayed overhead. The feeling of being watched became overwhelming. Then I saw movement. A figure, standing between 2 trees, motionless, watching me. He wore a dark winter coat, his face hidden beneath a hood. I couldn't see his eyes, but I knew he was looking directly at me. I shouted, "Hey!" No response. The man simply stood there, watching. Scout barked wildly. The figure slowly raised one arm, and pointed, not at me, toward the woods beside the trail. Then he disappeared behind a tree. I ran. I didn't care how ridiculous it looked. I just ran. The trail twisted through the forest. My lungs burned. Scout struggled to keep pace. Darkness swallowed everything around us. Then I saw lights. My truck. Relief flooded through me. I sprinted the final 100 yards, unlocked the truck, jumped inside. Scout leaped in after me. I slammed the doors and locked them. The engine started immediately. Thank God. As I turned the headlights toward the trail, I saw him, standing where the path emerged from the forest. The hooded man, perfectly still, watching my truck. Then another figure stepped beside him, and another. 3 people, all motionless, all staring. I drove away, fast, way faster than I should have on icy roads. I kept checking the mirror. The figures remained standing there, until darkness swallowed them. I thought that was the end. I was wrong. 3 nights later, around 2 a.m., Scout woke me with frantic barking. I sat upright. Something felt wrong. The barking wasn't directed downstairs. It was aimed toward my bedroom window. I approached carefully. Outside was darkness. Nothing else. Then the motion light activated, and revealed footprints. Fresh footprints, crossing my backyard, leading directly to my bedroom window. I froze. Someone had been standing there, watching me sleep. The tracks continued toward the woods behind my house. My hands shook as I called police. Officers arrived 30 minutes later. They followed the tracks. The footprints vanished at the tree line. No suspects. No answers. Just like that. Over the next week things got worse. Small objects disappeared from my porch. Someone left dead animals near my garage. Scout became increasingly aggressive every night. Then came the final incident. The one I'll never forget. It happened during another snowstorm. Around midnight, the power suddenly went out. The entire house went dark. I grabbed a flashlight. Scout stood at the front door growling. Not barking, growling. I looked through the peephole. Nothing. Then someone knocked. 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. I didn't move. Neither did Scout. Another 3 knocks. Then silence. A minute passed. Then another. I almost relaxed, until I heard glass breaking in the basement. Someone was inside. I immediately called 911, then grabbed my hunting rifle. Scout charged toward the basement stairs. The growling became ferocious. I heard footsteps below, slow, deliberate, moving through my house. The dispatcher kept talking. I barely heard her. Every sound seemed amplified. A floorboard creaked downstairs, then another. The intruder was climbing the stairs. Scout exploded into barking. The footsteps stopped. For several seconds everything was silent. Then I heard running. The intruder sprinted back downstairs. A rear door slammed. Police arrived moments later. They searched everywhere. The basement window had been smashed. Boot prints covered the floor, but the intruder was gone. 2 officers followed tracks into the woods. About half a mile from my house they discovered something hidden among the trees. A campsite, blue tarps, food wrappers, blankets, and photographs. Dozens of photographs. Pictures of my truck, my house, me walking Scout, me entering stores, me leaving work. Someone had been stalking me for months. The police never found whoever lived there. The campsite was abandoned. No fingerprints, no identification, nothing. I moved 6 months later. Scout passed away last year from old age, but sometimes I still think about those photographs, about those figures standing at the trailhead, about the shack beside the frozen lake, and every winter when fresh snow falls, I find myself checking for footprints outside my window before going to sleep. My name is Ethan, and this happened in the winter of 2021 in northern Pennsylvania. I've told this story only a handful of times because every time I do, people either think I'm lying or assume I imagined everything. I wish that were true. What happened that weekend was real, and if one small thing had gone differently, I probably wouldn't be alive today. It started when my friend Tyler invited me on a weekend hunting trip. Tyler's grandfather owned an old hunting cabin deep in the Appalachian woods. The cabin had been in his family for decades and sat nearly 15 miles from the nearest town. It sounded perfect. 3 days away from work. No phones, no internet, just woods and silence. On a Friday afternoon in late November, Tyler picked me up in his truck. The weather forecast predicted snow, but nothing severe. At least that's what they said. The drive took nearly 4 hours. The further we traveled, the more isolated everything became. Roads turned into dirt paths. Houses became rare. Eventually, civilization disappeared entirely. Dark forests surrounded us from every direction. As sunset approached, we reached the cabin. It was exactly what you'd expect. Small, weathered, surrounded by towering pine trees. A thin layer of snow covered the roof. The place looked straight out of a horror movie. Tyler laughed when I said that. Nothing scary out here except bears. I wish he had been right. That evening was normal. We unloaded supplies, started a fire, cooked dinner, played cards. Everything felt peaceful. Around 10 p.m., Tyler went outside to grab more firewood. A few moments later he came rushing back inside. His face looked pale. "What?" I asked. Tyler stared toward the door. "I think someone's out there." I laughed. "No way, I'm serious." The expression on his face told me he wasn't joking. We looked through the cabin window. Nothing, just darkness. Snow continued falling. The woods appeared empty. Eventually Tyler convinced himself he was mistaken. We went to bed. At approximately 2 a.m., I woke suddenly. At first I didn't know why. Then I heard it. A knock. 3 slow knocks. Coming from the front door. Knock, knock, knock. I sat upright. The cabin became completely silent. A minute passed. Then another. Then came 3 more knocks. Louder this time. Tyler woke too. You hear that? I nodded. Neither of us moved. No one should have been out there. The nearest property was miles away, and nobody would be hiking through the forest in the middle of the night during a snowstorm. The knocking stopped. We stayed awake for nearly an hour. Nothing else happened. Eventually exhaustion won. We fell back asleep. The next morning, we discovered footprints. Fresh footprints. They circled the cabin. Every side, every window. Whoever made them had walked around the cabin multiple times. Neither Tyler nor I spoke much after that. The tracks didn't lead toward any road. Instead they disappeared directly into the forest. That should have been enough reason to leave. But we didn't. It was a stupid decision. One I'll always regret. We spent most of the day hunting. Nothing unusual happened. As evening approached, snow began falling harder. The forest grew darker. Around 5 p.m. we started heading back. That's when Tyler noticed smoke, not from our cabin, from somewhere deeper in the woods. At first we assumed another hunter had set up camp, but curiosity got the better of us. We followed the smoke. After 20 minutes of walking, we found a clearing, and in the center stood another cabin. Neither of us knew it existed. The structure looked ancient. Its walls were gray and rotting. Half the roof had collapsed, yet smoke drifted from the chimney. Someone was inside. Tyler called out. No answer. The cabin remained silent. Something about the place felt wrong. Every instinct told me to leave. But Tyler walked toward the front door. I followed reluctantly. The door stood slightly open. Tyler pushed it wider. The smell hit us immediately. Rot, decay, something horrible. The cabin appeared abandoned. Dust covered everything. Broken furniture littered the floor. Yet a fire burned in the fireplace. Fresh, recently lit, and sitting beside the fire was a chair, facing the door, as though someone had been waiting for visitors. Neither of us stayed long. We left immediately. The entire walk back felt wrong, like we were being watched. Several times I glanced behind us. Each time I thought I saw movement between the trees, but nothing was ever there. That night the storm intensified. Wind slammed against the cabin walls. Snow buried the windows. Around midnight the power generator died. Darkness swallowed everything. Only the fireplace provided light. Tyler attempted to restart the generator. No luck. Eventually we decided to sleep. At approximately 3 a.m., I woke again. This time because of a sound. Footsteps. On the roof. Slow footsteps. Walking from one end of the cabin to the other. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The snow made every step audible. Tyler heard it too. We sat frozen in our beds. The footsteps continued, back and forth, for nearly 10 minutes. Then they stopped. Silence returned. Suddenly something slammed against the front door. The entire cabin shook. Another impact followed. Then another. Whoever was outside wanted in. Tyler grabbed his hunting rifle. I grabbed mine. The door rattled violently. The lock strained under pressure. Then everything stopped. Completely stopped. No footsteps. No impacts. Nothing. Only silence. That somehow felt worse. Morning finally arrived. The storm had ended. Sunlight illuminated the forest. We packed immediately. Neither of us wanted to stay another night. As we loaded the truck, Tyler froze. What is that? I followed his gaze. A message had been written in the snow beside the cabin. Using large branches. 3 words. Don't come back. My stomach dropped. Those branches hadn't been there yesterday. Someone created the message overnight. While we slept, we got into the truck and left. Neither of us spoke during the drive. The further we traveled, the safer I felt. Eventually we reached the highway. Relief washed over me. The nightmare was over. Or so I thought. 3 weeks later, Tyler called me. His voice sounded terrified. He had gone through photographs from the trip. One picture showed our cabin during the first afternoon. At first glance everything appeared normal. Then he zoomed in. Standing among the trees behind the cabin was a man. Tall, thin, wearing dark clothing, watching us. Neither of us remembered seeing him. Another photograph revealed the same figure. Closer, still watching. Then another. Closer again. In every picture he appeared nearer, as if approaching. Picture after picture. Watching, waiting. following. The final image was taken shortly before sunset on the first day. The figure stood only a few feet behind me, close enough to touch my shoulder, yet I never noticed him. A month later, authorities investigated the abandoned cabin we found. Apparently several hikers had reported strange activity in that area over the years. The cabin itself contained evidence that someone had lived there recently. Food, blankets, supplies, and dozens of photographs. Photographs of hikers, hunters, campers, people taken without their knowledge. Many were years old. Some individuals in those photos were listed as missing persons. Police launched an investigation. They never found the person responsible. No fingerprints, no DNA, nothing. The cabin eventually burned down under suspicious circumstances. The case remains unsolved to this day. Tyler refuses to discuss the incident anymore. He sold the hunting cabin shortly afterward. I don't blame him. As for me, I never returned to those woods. But sometimes I still think about that final photograph. The one showing the man standing directly behind me, watching, close enough to grab me, close enough to kill me. And the worst part, when Tyler enlarged the image one last time, we noticed something neither of us had seen before. The man wasn't looking at the camera. He wasn't looking at Tyler. He wasn't looking at the forest. He was staring directly at me, and he was smiling.